Hello and welcome back to Hubscale Podcast. Very, very excited to welcome two incredibly exciting guests. We have Michael Callaghan, CMO of Salt Security, and Michael Nicosia, COO and co-founder of Salt Security. It's lovely to have you both today. How are you both doing?
Doing really well, Emily. Thank you for having us, actually.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us here.
Amazing. Well, it's really exciting. So we'd just love to jump straight in and really get into the nitty-gritty of you guys, your background, Sol, and really just go from there. So would love to kind of have a quick intro on both of you and kind of, where you first started with Sol and kind of where it is now. But yeah, would love to kind of introduce the both of you.
Awesome. I guess I'll start. So, as you mentioned, Emily, Michael Nicosia, I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Salt Security. I was actually, we founded the company in 2018 with my business partner, Roy Eliyahu. But prior to that, I was also a founding member of another cybersecurity company called Audalon that we started in 2012 and sold to Microsoft in 2015. We were part of the CASB. We created that CASB space. So I've been in cybersecurity, for the last 12, 13 years or so, with my second startup. And prior to that, I was, with other small startups, as well as started my career in the ERP companies, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft. So that's kind of my background. Always been in the kind of the go-to-market side, the operations side, the creating kind of the journey for organizations to start and grow within the market.
Amazing. And yeah, would love to hear about your background, Michael, as well, and kind of where you were before Salt and kind of how your journey's grown as well.
Yeah, sure. So, Michael Callaghan, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Salt. I've been in security. Actually, it's the only industry that I've really been in. So it's almost 25 years now. Started in sales and then became an SE, and then went through the various other roles in a company, from product management to product marketing, and then corporate marketing, brand, all of the things in marketing. And big and small companies. So been some like big companies like HP and IBM, and then Juniper, and then several startups. And I met Michael a couple years ago, and loved what the vision that he and Roy, for this space, because had been in most of the other categories of security, and there was this wave happening around applications and people building new applications to deliver better experiences. And as we got into it, Michael's like, "Yeah, what powers all that are these APIs." And I'm like, "That's right. They're everywhere. Like, you can't not have, like, your business would stop if you didn't have these APIs, and they're now the attack target." And super exciting. And it was like, this is right there, and we're right in the middle of it now, and we're seeing it, and we're even seeing it explode even more with agentic AI. But it's a super exciting space. Yeah, it was fun meeting Michael 2 years ago, give or take, and then coming on board.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah. Well, I guess kind of, you kind of answered it a little bit there as well, but what kind of made you, really start the company, and how would you say kind of your vision has evolved since starting the company in 2018?
Yeah, I think the vision has always been consistent. So Roy and I actually met in 2016 through a mutual friend. And he had this thought that, there's a new threat vector and that these APIs were somewhat insecure. And I remember meeting him. I actually met him at a Microsoft office because we had just been purchased a year earlier. And we talked about APIs and his thought about the fact that APIs were going to be so prevalent. And if you think about APIs, as Michael mentioned, I mean, they're what, 75% of applications. And we had this notion that in order for organizations to innovate and grow and really be substantial in this digital first economy that was starting back then, is that these APIs needed to be secured. So we had this notion that, securing these APIs, or at least discovering these APIs, so that people were aware of the potential risks associated with this when they were building applications, we thought, this could be somewhat a big market. And I remember saying ubiquitous at the start. I thought, you know what, Roy, these APIs are going to be ubiquitous, as we take a look at where technology is today, because it was the early stages of microservices. So there was a lot of kind of innovation that was starting to happen to move companies into this digital kind of first economy that we were starting to see. And we thought that APIs was going to be the foundation for this kind of growth, which then translates to a lot of bad actors trying to infiltrate them. Because what we found is that there was a lot of hidden secrets, a lot of hidden information in these APIs when developers were coding and so on. So that's really how we started. And what we did with that concept is, we went out and we met maybe 20 to 50 CISOs that I was pretty close to, just to get a basic sense of what they thought about APIs, what they were doing to secure them, and those kinds of things. And based on that information, that's really how we began the whole process of starting the company. And I remember we went through YC, which was an incubator in 2016, just to develop the company. But then in 2018, after we started coding and, had our first potential release, alpha release and beta release, we started the company in April 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And
a little bit to that is what's so interesting about this is that there's like this a little bit of like a light bulb that goes off in people's heads, like where Mike was talking about things being ubiquitous. This light bulb is like, because you can't see an API, people don't know like what is it and what does it contain and what kind of information is there and is it valuable? Would someone want to target it or attack it? And it's everywhere. And so like there's this, an example that sometimes we'll share. Like if you get a ride share, if you get an Uber or Lyft, when you press that like icon or tap that icon on your phone, what happens from there is all APIs. Every single thing that happens from there is an API. So you tap it, and an API goes out and says, well, who is this that's tapping this? And an API says, what is the traffic like? And where's the airport? And where are the drivers? And is my credit card information? All of that is basically powering. So Michael said like 75% of an app is APIs. That's what happens. And so all of that information that I just shared, that's all pretty sensitive. Like you may want someone's credit card, or maybe you want to know their location, or like all of that. And so you can think that's just one app. You have millions and millions of apps, and all of these APIs are powering it. And but because you can't see them like a laptop, you don't think, oh, I need to protect that, right? But what's happening now is people are realizing, because they are the power behind all of those customer experiences, they contain that rich data and that rich information, and the bad guys, they want access to it. And that's what we're here to help with that, right? Help with that problem of attacking.
Absolutely. And I guess as well, you've been in this space, you've kind of see it almost kind of transform from almost 2016 up to now. So what would you kind of say is the main differentiator of Salt and the product that you offer? And what would you kind of say is the biggest change that you've seen from, when you've started to kind of now, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that it took the market quite some time to catch up, because we thought, if you think about all these mobile apps, web apps, microservices, I mean, all of these, kind of applications where APIs are a big trigger, you would think that, there would be a great demand to not only discover but secure these APIs. And I think it's gone a lot slower than we anticipated. But I think we're finally here with additional, technology enhancements like AI. I think we are now at the realm where, everybody from a CISO perspective are really thinking about APIs and, making sure that I discover them and I have some kind of governance associated with them. And then I'm able to protect against any, potential vulnerabilities that might be present there. So I think the differentiator that we've always had was that we had tremendous technology, kind of industry-changing technology. We were always, very, very focused on being able to, protect against, any bad actor that was trying to infiltrate them. And the reason, and we had the technology that had this, slow and low and slow. Yeah. Like my point is that bad actors, will try to infiltrate it over a period of time. Right. So it could be, a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month. And our technology is able to take a closer look at the intent of what a user might be doing from an API perspective. And that's why, our technology has been so far superior than anybody else.
Yep.
And then when you add the discovery aspects of it, and being able to discover, without any traffic, which is super exciting, that nobody else can do. And then obviously our governance engine allows us, to put parameters in terms of how you want to manage or govern your APIs across, industries. And it could be different from functional verticals. Industries like financial services could be different than pharmaceuticals and so on. So I think, the technology has always been super different, as compared to our competitors. And then I think the other, difference, besides, building an amazing culture of individuals, and the fast growth that we've had, I think we've had, a lot of success with tier one VCs. I mean, we're, backed by Sequoia, Capital G, YC. I mean, these are tier one investors that only invest in, in big market opportunities, but always invest in differentiated technology that's disruptive in the industry. And I think those are aligned, and gives us that kind of look through into the future in terms of what we want to do from an organizational perspective.
I think, Emily, I would add too, you'd asked about like what's changed since you started, or since we started. And Michael talked about this low and slow technology and how attacks happen in APIs. It's not like a missile comes in, like boom, like in it, like there's this big attack. It's not like that. It's there's little pieces at a time that happen, and they learn more information, more and more and more, and that's why it's kind of low and slow. And you need to be able to see all that, and then use your own intelligence. We use AI to do that, to piece that together, to say, hey, there's something that's going on here. What I think was interesting in the change is that those attacks that were happening. There was part of the market saw that initially, which it's almost always the finance people. So the banks, the banks, the monies, the money people, the finance organizations, all are ahead of they all see these threats that are coming, and so they were quick to adopt this, and they saw it, and so they were like, oh yeah, absolutely, we've got to protect this. What was interesting was happened, and it probably evolved over, I don't know, maybe 24 to 36 months, is that the rest of the market, Michael mentioned about lagging, kind of caught up to that. But what was interesting was they weren't saying, like right out of the gate, okay, yeah, help me protect this API that's doing this and this. They kind of sheepishly would go, I don't even know what I have. Can you just help me figure out what I've got? Because like I said, like in a laptop, you see the laptop, you see the phone, you need to protect it. You don't see an API. And so we invested a lot in innovating around that to be able to just show people, look, here's a real quick and simple way, super fast. Let us show you what you have. And it's super eye-opening for people. Like we'll sometimes we'll do a little game and just sort of say, like, how many APIs do you think you have? And they'll say 100. And like we'll go and look for them. We'll say, well, we found 15,000, right? Like it's that kind of like extreme difference. But that's really changed, I think, is that people are now they're saying, I know that I have an issue. I really need to understand, what do I have? So I've got to discover them. And then I've got to say, are they in policy? Like if I'm subject to some sort of compliance, is it in policy or not? And then they tend to come around to okay, now I've got that under control. Let me stop the attacks. That's a change that I think's happened over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, you've kind of, you've seen it evolve over the last, 6 years. And I guess right now as well, there's so many things changing, especially with AI and lots of other different factors to kind of, factor in as well. But what would you kind of say is the biggest API driven threat that you have at the moment that maybe wasn't so prevalent, when you first started out?
Yeah, I think, if you take a look at how prevalent like mobile apps are and web apps, microservices, and now, you've got AI agents and you've got MCP servers. I think all of those trigger, APIs. And I think those elements are really is what compounding, kind of our growth, and, just kind of our education as well as kind of our reach in that, there's, I've got a mobile app that's in production. There's millions of users. There's a lot of sensitive data associated with that, and there's potential a lot of, leaks and breaches that are associated with that. And you've seen them all over the news throughout the last, I would say, 3.5 years. And then, you compound that with, Mark O'Neill and Gartner that is now following API security, and we've created a market with them. I think it becomes more prevalent. But I think the attack surface and the fact that, there are a lot of companies that have these, kind of digital services, we'll call them, web app, mobile app, microservices, and AI agents and so on. So if we call them digital services, they're getting exposed and they're getting breached. And I think there's a renewed kind of education of, holy cow, I really need to take a closer look at what do I have within the organization, to see what kind of exposure I have. And we have tools that allow us to give them that exposure. And I think those exposed sites are really, really big. As Michael mentioned, a lot of CISOs think they've got, maybe hundreds or thousands of APIs, but it's 10 times, the reality of what we find when we give them kind of access to what we call salt surface, which allows them to take a closer look at what an attacker would see, within their organization. So I think those elements is really what's changing, the breaches as well as these digital services that are becoming forefront of technology. And there's millions and millions of users associated with these digital services that provide some big risks.
I'll add to that too. Like Michael mentioned, like MCP servers as a potential risk. If you think about what an AI agent does, you go into it and you ask it a question, and it goes and it looks at its large language model, and it says, "Oh, here's an answer for you." That language model is being trained, or it's looking for it's been trained on a certain set of data to give you an answer back, and it works beautifully. What's happening now, though, is people are in that, and usually in the past, I think that people were just using that for their own use, right? Like, oh, help me write this, or help me understand this better, or whatever. So that it was kind of isolated. As people and companies in particular push out more and more agents, they need access to different data sets. And so you can't have that one-off, here's this agent, and I'm going to build an agent that talks to Salesforce, and here's an agent, I'm going to build it, and it's going to talk to SAP, or I'm going to build this, whatever your systems are. What is happening is they're deploying and building MCP servers that act as this broker of that information. And so you may ask one question like, hey, how do my financials look? Right? And it goes to this MCP server, and that may go to 8, 9, 10 different data sources, and then bring all that information back and then give you an answer. That is completely insecure right now, right? So people are just launching that because they're trying to get ahead of this, because they see that the agents are helping their business, helping you understand your business more and deliver better experiences both internally and externally. But that's largely unregulated, and that's not regulated like a regulator or compliance. But people will say, "Oh yeah, I need to spin up an MCP server for that." So they do, and they launch it, and they don't even know what they have in their environment. Kind of like a couple of years ago when we would say, "How many APIs do you have?" and they'd say they'd be off by a magnitude. Now they don't know that they have these MCP servers, let alone what data it's accessing. So that's become a real threat and a real risk to organizations, is that little hub there, or that broker of API calls, has an unbelievable amount of sensitive information. And when that happens, well, why do you rob banks, right? This is from the old days. Why do people rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do you attack APIs? Because that's where the data is. And so now these MCP servers are really being attacked.
And I guess as well, like when you first started out, these might have been issues you might not have even forecasted happening, and it's probably
Right.
again in the next couple of years as well. There'll probably be something that you find that you didn't even think would would happen now, which is just so crazy. It's such a change in landscape, especially in kind of the API, AI, that whole space. It's just constantly evolving and constantly changing, which is it's just crazy, and it'll be interesting to kind of see, what it'll look like in the next, 1, 2, 5 years, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, when I first met Roy, I mean, that word ubiquitous came into mind because I thought this would be, you know, drastically like just massive. And if you think about, as technology continues to evolve, it becomes more and more prevalent that these APIs are part of the technology suite. So, for us, I mean, I think that's where we're really excited about what, the future aspirations of the company in terms of the kind of growth and the kind of company we want to be. It's moving in that direction where APIs are becoming ubiquitous, and AI is just another example of how technology is pushing forward these APIs, which is super exciting. And I only envision that will continue to be the case as innovation as technology continues to evolve.
I mean, it's something that we just did. We just had an announcement, and it's like at the very beginning of this, I think, and it'll evolve. And like you said, Emily, probably something new will come out in 3 or 4 years. But we just introduced, we have an AI technology AI agent called Pepper, right? It goes with salt and pepper, and you can just ask it anything. You can go into the so this is us using that technology to make the product better, right? So you can go in and say, hey, do I have any APIs that are payment related? Or do I have any APIs that aren't authenticated or something that's not secure? Or do I have a gap between this internal policy? And it'll just tell you. And so we've taken that and used it to really improve the experience and improve the customer environment overall, which is like one implementation of that. Then you've got the external implementation, which is how do you use AI to make people more secure? Right. So you can be looking at threats and attacks and see, oh yeah, this looks like it's an attack. Let's do something about it. But we're really excited about that because what we just introduced with Pepper AI, that wasn't on our radar 2 years ago. It wasn't on our roadmap, right?
Okay.
With this super fast evolution of what was going on with AI, we looked at it and said, wait, there's something here that we can do with this. And so we just launched it, and now people are using it to interact with their salt environment, kind of like just natural language, like, hey, just tell me this, rather than having to figure out like, oh, here's the structured query, or I have to ask it in this way, or I have to run a report. You just say, hey, tell me where I'm vulnerable, and you'll know.
So Emily, think about it as Pepper AI is like an internal chat GPT that you could just ask questions and you'll get answers to it. So we've embedded that within our software that allows easier operational usage of our product and any questions that might be outstanding, as well as if you think about certain off-the-cuff reporting that CISOs want to have when they go to the board and present their security risks and so on. So it's very usable from an operational perspective.
Absolutely. It sounds like an absolute game changer as well. It's pretty new, isn't it? And is it the first of its kind as well, kind of in this space?
Yeah, I mean, we think so. I mean, we just announced it yesterday, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and we think it's again, no other company is leveraging kind of AI from that perspective. I mean, we're leveraging AI in other things from an algorithm perspective, but this is consistent with how users are using AI today from a chat GPT perspective. We thought it'd be beneficial for our customers to because there's a lot of questions sometimes that you want answers to that you can do on your own, and it's self-aware and it's learning and all that great stuff. So we think it's a phenomenal enhanced productivity tool for them to use as they continue to evolve in our solution.
Absolutely. It sounds like an absolute game changer. And I know it will be, because again, like I even think almost last year, like I would always think, oh, I probably won't even use ChatGPT, but now I catch myself using it all the time. It's just so easy because it's instant, isn't it? So actually embedding that in your own product and like having, allowing, your customers to kind of be able to use that and get answers so quickly is such a game changer. And I also wonder how that will look and evolve maybe as well. So maybe like this time next year, how that'll look, and if there's all these added features to it to kind of enhance it more. Like, it'll be so interesting to kind of see the progress over the next few years on that too.
Well, so imagine this, and so
Yeah.
I don't want to completely like steal the thunder from our own roadmap, but imagine this. So right now we're saying things like, hey, tell me where I'm out of policy, or tell me if there's an API of this. Imagine though, if the AI could just be your brain and your partner and always running, and you log in the morning and it says, hey, you may want to look at this because you've got an API that's not authenticated, without even asking it. That's pretty cool, right? Or, hey, by the way, it looks like your organization that's got a server in, the Philippines, it looks like it may have been attacked last night. Here's what you should do about it. I mean, that's a pretty cool evolution of that, where you actually then can focus on, okay, now how do I deliver better experiences for my customers and my employees and my partners than like going into and knowing, was an API authenticated, because it would have already sort of let you know and taken care of it.
And think about that from a proactive perspective, so proactive security versus reactive, where you're just waiting for things to happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits associated with what we can do, which we're super excited about. Lots to come here in the next several months.
Yeah. Very excited to keep watching and seeing, all of the unraveling over the next few months, and how that kind of, unravels and evolves really, which is, it's so exciting to kind of, hear it firsthand now. It's just been announced. So yeah, very excited to kind of keep track of that. Just a slightly kind of different question. So a different question for both of you. How have you kind of, found, and what have been your kind of toughest challenges, would you say, kind of scaling operations and then also growing brand presence? I guess it's kind of a different question for both of you in your different roles at Salt.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, and it's consistent with everybody, anybody that's starting a company and trying to scale a company. I mean, you think about, if you put technology aside, obviously you have to have a disruptive technology in order to compete, and in order to kind of move in the right direction, to be a useful solution for companies to see value. I think the other biggest piece is, and I know it's so simple, but it's people. Finding amazing talent, not only to manage, what you need to do today, but individuals that can grow as the company grows. It's just such a challenge. And I think that's the biggest, kind of barrier that, we often see as we begin to scale the organization. Finding amazing individuals is very tough. And not only amazing individuals, they have to fit into your cultural kind of nucleus that you've built. So there's a lot of interviewing that goes on consistently for us, in terms of bringing the right people that not only are going to be valuable today, but obviously valuable as we continue to grow the organization. I think that's an element of scale that's always been really, really tough. And then I'll let Michael talk a little bit about, from a market perspective, it's always that constant education, it's that constant reach in terms of making sure that people understand, what are APIs and why, having these exposures or these risks is so important for you to take care of. Those kinds of things that, we constantly have to educate, and we constantly have to create enough, reach so that everybody understands, Salt Security, API security, and the value that we bring to each of the organizations that take a closer look at us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably the single most important, and Michael said this, is the people side of it. It's like when you scale, there's technology advancements are going to help you scale, but the people in the culture is as painful as it is sometimes, because we're growing so fast and we're always hiring. We just can't hire everybody because they apply, right? Like, you really have to go through this process, and it's I would say that we probably interview 10 people for one job that we fill. Sometimes even more than that, because it's so important, the culture that's been created, where you bring people in, and there's very little, like, there's a lot of really smart people here, but there's very little ego, right? Like ego that's like aimed at other people, right? It's very much, let's figure out what to do. Very little hierarchy, and maintaining that is one of the probably the key things to focus on for growth, for sure. On the marketing side and the brand side, I think probably the biggest challenge we have is like, how do you break through the noise, like Michael said, and how do you compete against someone like. So I'm in Las Vegas this week at AWS reInvent. AWS is a big partner for us. In fact, our Pepper AI that we talked about is built on AWS's Bedrock, right? That's the backbone of the AI. Super great technology. It's helped us innovate really fast. But I'm here with AWS, so they are probably spending these 3 days that I'm here more than we have in the marketing spend for the next 5 years. Right. Just in 3 days. I mean, this is across there's 8 different hotels that this is across, and it's just massive. And so the question is, how do you break out of that or break through that? And one of the things that we found is that if you can't outspend, like as a startup, you just can't outspend the big companies. What you can do is you can tell stories that are meaningful and relevant. So if you tell a story, if you tell something, hey, this is how this works, like the example we gave with Pepper and what we do, telling that story of, look, you can just go in and ask, do I have any payment APIs? That breaks through a billboard on Madison Avenue, right? Or in Times Square or in Trafalgar Square or whatever. It doesn't, you can break through with that. So our approach has been really focus on what's meaningful to people and deliver that message of things that matter, and you can overcome just the scale or the volume that people can invest by doing that, and we found success with that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. And that's the thing as well, like announcing these new product features and really trying to cut through the noise in a different way eventually kind of, it makes you stand out. It kind of, people talk, and, doing this really unique and something that's not been done before will, really, really pay off, really, I would say.
Yeah, and it's the key of it is doing it in a way that it matters. So talking to someone, helping them understand that you understand the problems they have and how we can solve the problem, more than 5 words in a billboard somewhere, right? It's more this meaningful dialogue we want to have.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, cutting through the noises, I think, is a huge challenge, because there's a lot of organizations talk about API security, the fact that they discover, they govern, they protect. The reality is they don't. They have very minimal views on discovering these APIs, as well as in some cases there's no governance at all. And the way that they protect is no better than kind of a WAF-like capability that has been around for like 10 years. So really having that message to cut through the noise so that CISOs really understand that there is really one vendor, Salt Security, from an API security perspective, because we truly have the technology that allows us to discover, govern, and protect against APIs, and throughout the entire organization, and not just specific environments. It's the entire environment across their global footprint that they have from a company perspective. So it's really difficult, because sometimes you can't say it in words because everybody will copy those words. And that's why when we get into like a proof of value, they can really, and our technology shines, they can really see the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's going to be so kind of cool as well to really see the evolution of this and really kind of see how it progresses, especially with Pepper AI and lots of other things, over the next few years, and, how that really demonstrates with how you guys scale and how you grow as well. So again, really excited to kind of watch and see how that plays out over the next few years.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about kind of the future direction. And I think it's exciting. I mentioned our investors, tier 1 investors, they saw this kind of growth in terms of the market aspirations that we have and where API security can fit into that. So I think it's aligning, and it's exciting to move into this kind of new realm in such a fast-paced position that we're in today. So it's exciting times to be at Salt Security.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're now actually going to do brand new segment to the podcast, which I'm very excited to announce. We're actually going to do what's called Hack or Hype. So essentially, it's fully API coded, so very, very specific to Sol. But essentially, I'm going to ask some quick fire questions, and you're going to tell me if it's a hack or it's overhyped. Definitely going to be good for your customers to kind of, I'm sure you get these questions a lot as well. So, we'll do some quick fire questions. Is it a hack or is it overhyped? And see
when Michael and I answer it differently, it'll be like that'll be the next topic in our marriage counseling, right? Well,
yeah.
Okay. Now, why did you say?
You should do little signs.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Right. Are we ready for some quick fire questions?
Yeah. Ready.
Amazing.
Yeah.
First one, hack or hype. APIs are only a developer concern. Security teams don't need to worry about them.
I would say that's a hack, meaning that obviously, if you think about what are APIs? APIs are the glue that basically connects the data flows across all these digital services, right? So if you think about a mobile app, 75% or more is consisted of APIs. So our feeling is if you can protect that API, I think you're going to have a more secure application moving forward. So I think it's critically important. And then when you think about kind of the technology of AI and what it's doing, I mean, Michael mentioned it briefly. You've got these agents, right? When they ask questions, it goes into an MCP server because that MCP server is a broker that basically hits a whole bunch of other data servers to get that answer back for you. Those are all APIs that are being driven. So obviously, not only having the visibility and governing these, but protecting that data flow of APIs is so critical and so important. So if I understand the game correctly, I think that is 100% accurate.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's
that's a hack.
Perfect. Next question, hack or hype. AI can automatically secure your applications, no human oversight needed.
That's mostly hype.
That is absolutely 100% hype.
At least right now, right? Let's check back in 2 years and see. But right now, that's hype. You have to have some people involved at some point or technology.
Definitely.
Perfect. Next question: if an API is behind authentic.
Michael, are you still there?
Yeah, sorry, you cut out.
I think you froze up.
Sorry.
Yeah, can you?
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
If an API is behind authentication, it's safe.
That's hype. That's
hype.
not true. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's like it's partly safe, but not completely safe.
Yeah. So if you think about authenticate, I mean, most bad actors are able to get into an API even after authentication. So that's a complete hype associated with that.
Perfect. Next question. Maybe it might be a bit not for confrontational, but AppSec and API security are basically the same thing.
That's totally wrong. That's hype. That's
hype.
Completely not right.
Yeah, we think actually, at the very beginning, AppSec was this umbrella, and as we explored kind of the advancement of APIs along with Mark O'Neill, we think it should be flipped around, and API is now the umbrella, and AppSec is just kind of a pillar associated with all several other pillars. But API, is really kind of the ubiquity of really kind of, where, application security is going to be part, or the other way around, application security is going to be part of API, which is security, which is the umbrella in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Last question as well on this round. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear. AI-driven security is mostly marketing buzz right now.
I'm not sure. That's not true. Which one is that?
Right.
It's not just
yeah, I agree.
It's actually real. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's real, but you can't have AI security without API security. Again, these are all APIs that AI is triggering from a technological perspective. So, that's definitely
there is a lot. Actually, there is a lot of hype around just AI security, because just about every technology company says they're delivering AI security, regardless what they are. There are people that are doing it like us that I think it's real, and then there's people that are just kind of whitewashing with AI and saying, "Oh yeah, we do that as well," which that would lead to quite a bit of hype.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, that was very quick fire. Hopefully, that'll be really helpful for your customers as well, as our listeners as well. Just one last question before I let you go. Without giving away too much, what is next for Salt?
Wow. I think there's quite a bit. I think you'll start taking a closer look at self-service, solutions that we're going to be able to offer, which means that, it's going to be, time to value is going to be fast. The operational side of leveraging the technology to provide value is going to be fast. If you think about, executive reporting, kind of ad hoc executive reporting to be able to report on anything in any specific time in view, I think all of those elements are where we are moving, and obviously taking advantage of not only AI from an internal perspective within our own application, but really as AI really becomes more of a use case for companies to take advantage, obviously being able to not only discover and govern and protect against the AI and MCP side of the world that organizations are starting to take more and more advantage of. I think all of those elements is really what's in store for us in the near future. And when we talk about near future, we're talking about just months away. So I can't even imagine what we would have in a year or two from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would add to that just one last point on it is one of the things that we are really focused on is when we want the reaction that our customers have when they log into the product, we want them to literally say, "Wow." And either like that experience was wow, or we told them or gave them some sort of insight or information that was wow. And we're looking at how do we completely revolutionize that experience. And we have some prototypes that we've shared with some of our current customers, and we're getting that response. Like we'll show it to them like today's and then tomorrow's, and we'll show them tomorrow's, and they'll go, "Wow, that's really cool." And I'm pretty excited with that. I know Michael's excited about it too, because when you can deliver that kind of experience, it becomes it's not technology. It's like it just becomes part of something that you use and you do. It just almost becomes part of you. But that wow, it's super hard to do, especially with something that's so complicated as API security. But we're there, and we're pretty excited about what's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if I could just real quickly double down on time to value, because I kind of glossed over it. I mean, time to value is being able to take advantage of our solution right away. And I think where nobody else is really near what we're able to offer, when we talk about traffic lists, like we give you the visibility of all your APIs, including AIs, MCPs, without traffic. We could do it. It's just our connect capabilities, connecting directly to your cloud or other kind of API management solutions or CDNs and so on. Being able to do that without traffic is so important, because obviously giving you that capability, that visibility, as well as being able to govern your APIs, right away in like 2 clicks, right? You're up and running, I think is super, super advantageous. And we're doing that not only today, but as we continue to evolve, it's going to be a lot easier, moving forward. So I think we can get you up and running like, in minutes, to provide you that value in minutes. So I think that's super important to think about what we can do, not only today, but moving into the future as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't wait to kind of follow along on the journey, see how you guys evolve, grow, and really kind of, see where you're at in the next, the 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, see how it's evolving. But it's been absolutely great to, have a chat with you guys today, really find out about Sol and really just watch you guys grow and evolve. I'm really excited.
Yes. Thank you so much, Emily. Really appreciate you having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.